I'm here to shine a bright light on a problem that predates the coronavirus, but that has been severely exacerbated by the ongoing pandemic. I'm speaking about the homework gap experienced by as many as 12 million children in the United States who right now, today, nearly a year into this public health emergency, still do not have internet access at home and are unable to participate in online learning. This is a national disgrace, and it is going to come back to haunt our nation for a generation. A child should not be missing the third grade because they are not connected. They should not be missing the fifth grade. They're going to pay a huge long-term price because of that lack of connectivity. Before the pandemic, these students were at an educational disadvantage already because they could not complete homework assignments that required internet access after class. But today, the problem is exacerbated with most schools being closed. Household kitchen tables have become virtual classrooms during the pandemic, and even as we try to safely reopen schools in the weeks and months ahead, distance learning is not going away, both because of the continuing health crisis and the need to make up for severe learning loss during these past 11 months. The bottom line is that if a young student has no internet connection or device, she cannot learn. And that means that those 12 million students in America right now without connectivity, who are disproportionately from communities of color, low-income households, and rural areas, are falling further behind in their studies every single day that this pandemic continues. There's no reason why the country that invented the internet cannot provide it to children who need it to learn and to develop. We as a society simply cannot allow an 8-year-old to miss the third grade because she does not have the internet at home. These vulnerable students are no longer facing just a homework gap. They are facing a learning gap, and it will quickly become an opportunity gap for the rest of their lives because those opportunities come from a good education. To close this gap and correct this educational injustice, we must immediately connect these students to the internet. Given its history and success, it's just common sense that we use the E-rate program as a guide to connect students where they are currently learning at home. The E-rate, which already connects schools and libraries to the internet, is a trusted program deliberately designed to require an equitable distribution of funding to our most vulnerable communities, urban and rural, blue and red. I created the program more than 2 decades ago, and it has since invested more than $52 billion in the educational connectivity for children, especially in the poorest communities. And that has unleashed another $50 billion. So from the state and local level, which is $100 billion from that E-rate program that I authored out of the House of Representatives in 1996. It's still the greatest educational technology program in the history of our country, and it led to the deployment of this technology on school desks at the same rate for poor children and rich children. That's the first time that ever happened. But today, there is a gap because many of these children, millions of them, do not have it at home. That's the gap. And in many instances, it's not a digital divide, it's a poverty divide that is leading to this crisis. It's a poverty divide. And because their parents cannot afford the connectivity, because they cannot have this service for their children, we are going to see an absolute disgrace which will befall our country when we look back and we see what happened to these kids. So that's why we need, in this reconciliation package, we need billions of dollars, which are going to be included. We have to make sure that the funding is there for every city, for every school system, for every parent to have their kid who is connected for as long as this takes, and we don't know how long it is going to take. Children are only 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future, and right now we're leaving behind millions of them who will have a much less of an opportunity to be able to maximize their God-given abilities. So, Mr. President, I am here to say that the one thing we must do, which Republicans forced out of the package in December, is this time that we put the billions of dollars in order to make sure that every child has access to the internet at home for their educational opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President.